Good evening. Tonight, we are going to a small island in a lagoon, on a cold winter night, about 600 years ago. There is no hurry. Nothing in this story will startle you, and nothing will need your full attention. If you drift away halfway through, that is exactly as it should be. Let your shoulders drop. Let the bed hold your weight. And we will begin. The island is called Murano. It sits about a mile north of Venice, close enough that on a still night you can hear the bells of the city drifting across the water. It is not a beautiful island. It is a working one. Low buildings, narrow lanes, and everywhere the smell of wood smoke and hot sand. In the year 1450, almost every furnace in Europe that made glass was here, on this one small island. Not by accident. Some 70 years earlier, the Venetian authorities had ordered every glassmaker in the city to move out to Murano and stay there. The official reason was fire. Glass furnaces burned day and night at temperatures that could turn stone soft, and Venice was a city built largely of wood. But there was a second reason, less often written down. On an island, the glassmakers could be watched. Their knowledge was worth more than the glass itself, and Venice had no intention of letting it walk away. The glassmakers of Murano lived comfortably. They were permitted to wear swords. Their daughters could marry into noble families, which was almost unheard of for craftsmen. They were, in every visible way, privileged men. They also could not leave. A glassmaker who took his knowledge to another country could be pursued, and the records of the council are quite plain about what pursuit could mean. So they stayed, generation after generation, on an island a mile wide, doing the one thing they had been born to do. And for all those years, there was a problem none of them had solved. The problem was color. Glass, in the 15th century, was never truly clear. It came out of the furnace tinted, usually a soft green, sometimes brown, sometimes a gray that no amount of skill could lift. This was iron. There was iron in the sand, iron in the ash, iron in the very tools, and iron in glass gives you green. You could make beautiful things with green glass. They did. But nobody could make a window you could truly see through, or a vessel that held wine and let you see the color of it, or a lens that showed the world as it actually was. And there was a man on that island who found this unbearable. His name was Angelo Barovia. His family had been making glass on Murano for at least 3 generations before him, which by the standards of the island made them ordinary rather than remarkable. What we know about him is thin, and honestly told, much of it comes to us second-hand, written down by admirers years after the fact. He was born around 1405. He was unusually well educated for a craftsman. He seems to have known some natural philosophy, which is what they called science then. He was curious about why things happened, not only about how to make them happen. That distinction matters more than it sounds. Most glassmakers of the time worked by inherited recipe. You did what your father did, in the order he did it, and if it worked you did not ask why. Barovia asked why. The work would have looked like this. He would come to the furnace before dawn, because a glass furnace is never allowed to go cold and someone must always be tending it. The heat inside would be somewhere past 1,000 degrees, enough that standing close to the opening in winter would dry your eyes and warm your bones through a wool coat. He would prepare a batch. Sand, and ash for flux, and whatever else he was testing that season. Then he would wait. Glass does not answer quickly. You mix, you melt, you hold it at heat for hours, and only then do you see what you have made. And then, most times, you would see green. He did this for 11 years. Think about 11 years for a moment. Not as a fact in a story, but as a length of time. 11 winters of walking to the same furnace in the dark. 11 years of mixing a batch slightly differently, a little more of this ash, a different sand from a different riverbank, a longer melt, a shorter one, and waiting hours to be told no. Not a dramatic no. Just glass that came out the same soft green it always had. Most of us would have stopped. Most of the island had stopped. Green glass sold perfectly well. He kept going. What he eventually worked out was this. The ash they used as flux, the thing that lowers the melting point of sand, came from burnt plants, and it carried impurities with it, iron among them. So he began purifying the ash. He would dissolve it, filter it, let it recrystallize, and use only what came out the other side. Cleaner ash, less iron. And then he added something. Manganese, from a mineral they called by other names then. Manganese in small amounts does something quietly beautiful. It produces a faint purple tint, and purple is the opposite of green on the color wheel. The two cancel. Add just enough, and the green vanishes, and what remains is nothing at all, which is to say, clear. Glassmakers had used manganese before him, in a rough way. What Barovia seems to have done is make it precise. The right ash, the right amount, the right heat, repeatable. Sometime around 1450, he took a piece out of the furnace and it was clear. Not perfectly clear by our standards. If you held it up today you would see a faint tint, some tiny bubbles, a slight waviness. But compared to everything that had come before it was extraordinary. You could look through it and see the world with its colors intact. They called it cristallo, because it looked like rock crystal, like quartz, the clear stone that had until then been the only transparent material anyone had. And it made Murano, already wealthy, something closer to legendary. Here is the part one find myself thinking about. Barovia was trying to make a nicer drinking glass. That was, as far as we can tell, the whole of his ambition. Venetian nobles wanted beautiful things and would pay well for them, and he wanted to make the most beautiful thing on the island. But clear glass is not only decorative. Clear glass is the material of lenses. And lenses are spectacles, and spectacles let a scholar keep reading past the age of 45, when the eyes begin to change, which quietly extended the working life of every educated person in Europe. Lenses are also telescopes. Roughly 150 years after Barovia, a man in Padua, about 20 miles from Murano, pointed a tube with two glass lenses at the night sky and saw that Jupiter had moons. His name was Galileo, and the glass he used came from this tradition. And lenses are microscopes, which is how we eventually learned that there is an entire living world too small to see, and, in time, that some of it makes us ill. None of that was in his mind. He was standing at a furnace on a cold island, tired, trying again. That is how a great many important things seem to arrive. Not as a plan, but as somebody being stubborn about a small problem for an unreasonable length of time. Angelo Barovia died in 1460, about 10 years after the clear glass. His family kept making glass on Murano. They are still making glass on Murano. The Barovia name has been in that trade for something like 700 years, which may be the longest unbroken run of any family business in Europe. So tonight, if you are still with me, somewhere on a small island in a cold lagoon, a tired man is waiting for a furnace to tell him whether this time was different. It probably was not. He will come back tomorrow. There is nothing you need to do with that. Let it sit there. Rest well. And if you would like another story, there will be one waiting.